Hey, gorgeous! Welcome to the Business Mindset Podcast with Holly Wharton, which combines powerful strategies on how to upgrade your business mindset, along with practical business tips to grow your business. This podcast features solo shows with Holly and also interviews with inspiring women entrepreneurs from around the world. Thank you so much for joining us today. And now, here's your host, Holly Wharton.
Hello and welcome to the Business Mindset Podcast, episode 159. This is your host, Holly Wharton, and I'm back with another co-hosted episode with the fabulous Jo Casey. Today we're going to talk a little bit about visibility, how to know when it's time to step up and be more visible in your business, what that looks like, what it's looked like for us, why visibility is about taking up space and what that looks like, why you really don't need to worry about getting all up in people's faces online like you might be worrying, what our visibility journeys have been like in business and what kinds of things have held us back, some of the things that we've done to turn things around in terms of business visibility and make ourselves more visible, what it feels like to actually do this and show up in a bigger way. It might not be what you think. We also talk about the lowdown on affirmations for belief changes, how we feel about using affirmations. Now, is this whole visibility thing just a woman's issue, or does it happen for men too? We talk about that and our opinions. We also talk a little bit about what kinds of things have been the biggest triggers for our own visibility stuff and what practical stuff we've done to overcome them. We also talk about some of the biggest things that we've done that have created the most important shifts in terms of visibility for our businesses. And that's all exciting stuff we talk about today in terms of business visibility. I hope you find this episode to be really, really interesting. You may have noticed that I've been talking about business visibility a lot lately, and that's because of my recent book, Business Visibility: How to Transform Your Business Mindset and Increase Your Visibility, was just released this month. So visibility is a big thing for me right now, and I'm super excited about it. So onwards and upwards to this episode. I hope you find it really useful, and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much. Hello and welcome back. This is Holly Wharton and Jo Casey, and we're going to be talking a little bit about visibility today. Visibility in your business. How do you know when it's time to step up and play a bigger game in your business? Or is it the other way? Do you need to take the action and then your visibility increases? We're going to talk a little bit about playing small, quitting that, and moving up into a different level in your business. So, hello, Jo.
Hello. Sorry, just to explain, Holly did this beautiful opening a couple of minutes ago, and all I had to do was say hello, and I fluffed it. I just got a bit... so yeah, hello.
That was a clear and solid hello. So.
Thank you. Thank you. I try. I am a professional. No, I'm really excited to talk about this today because as a woman in business, knowing lots of other women in business, I think this is the thing that we struggle with the most, actually being seen and being out there and not wanting to feel like we're in people's faces and are we taking up too much space and all of that stuff. And it's something that I wrestle with. I know it's something that you wrestle with. It's something that our clients wrestle with. And so I'm hoping that this is going to be a really useful and empowering conversation that we're going to have.
Yeah, definitely. This is definitely one of the biggest topics that my clients come to me with. And it's one of the things that I've worked on over and over and over with people and with myself. So it's actually no surprise that I'm attracting those kinds of clients because this has been one of my biggest lessons in business. And I loved what you said about it's an issue of being seen, but also taking up space. And that is something that I hadn't thought about until a recent session with my coach. We were talking about taking up space. And for me, I've been getting a lot better about being seen, but I still have had stuff around taking up space. Showing up too often in people's timelines, posting too many photographs to Instagram, just taking up, and it's virtual space. It's not even physical space. So how does that show up for you? Have you had stuff around that?
Oh yeah, a similar type of stuff, I think. And because I remember when I was doing a big launch last fall, and talking to my mastermind buddies, going, "Oh, it just feels so obnoxious. I feel like I'm just there all the time on the timeline," and it felt really uncomfortable because obviously when you're launching, you do you're doing quite a lot of kind of structured visibility. You are wanting deliberately to be much more visible because you are wanting people to sign up for your program. And that whole process for me felt really uncomfortable. I mean, there were some days it just felt excruciating and seemed to take so much energy, even though all it actually was posting some pictures, sending some emails out. It really wasn't like I was having to show up in the room and kind of go, hey, look at me. But it felt like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Even though it's virtual.
Well, and I think that's also partly because we've all had that kind of sense of overwhelm when someone else is in a launch and perhaps they've taken it a little over the top and it's like, whoa, they're everywhere. So I think we don't want to be that kind of in-your-face person. But a lot of times we worry about being that in-your-face person when we're nowhere near that level.
Absolutely. And if I think about the people who... Okay, so B School launches once a year.
Yeah.
And, Marie, who I love, Marie Forleo, she's everywhere. Not only is she in the emails that you get from Marie, and she just very kindly say, if you don't want to hear about B School, click this box and we won't send you anything. But then it's like every second person in my inbox is also promoting B School. And I remember the first year that I was kind of aware of all this stuff going on was probably about 3 years ago. And I remember in the kind of online community that I was in at the time, somebody saying, is it just me or is everyone else sick of seeing Marie Forleo's face? And then everybody piled in and kind of felt like everybody, oh my goodness, yes, it's... And I think somewhere that kind of nobody wants to be that person. Now, I'm sure Marie really doesn't care because I'm pretty sure Marie is thinking, well, do you know what? I help 2,000 plus women every year to build their businesses and to follow their dreams. And actually, I can cope with the discomfort of thinking that some people might think I'm a bit too in your face. I'm pretty sure she's not too bothered about that.
However, there was that, as you said, it was about 2 or 3 years ago where it was just out insane everywhere.
Yes. Yeah.
And I feel like she asked her, either she had fewer affiliates or she asked them to tone it down a little because since then it hasn't been as in your face. So I feel like someone told me or wrote or said somewhere that she had either asked people to tone it down or she was working with fewer affiliates because I have seen a difference there. So I wonder if perhaps there was some concern.
Maybe, yeah. In which case, that makes it even more interesting, I think, because there is that balance between how you feel personally about, I feel so exposed, I don't want to be that obnoxious person, but also there is that point, I think, where it tips over and it does start affecting your business in some ways. And I imagine that was a very thought out business decision on Marie's part. I think for the rest of us, we're not at that stage. We haven't got a gazillion affiliates. And I think it's really interesting that this is still something that comes up a lot, particularly for women.
Definitely. It's like we're just so afraid of stepping on other people's toes, about, shining our lights. It can be really, really scary. And for me, that was one of the biggest issues for me when I went from my first business, which was I had a business partner and we had, tons of employees and it was like this whole organization. When I went from that to being a solopreneur, that was my biggest thing because I had the business experience. I'd been in business for 10 and a half years. I had the marketing experience. My role was marketing director in my company. I knew what I was doing technically, but my internal stuff about being visible with my business was what held me back when I went to being a solopreneur. It was just terrible. I mean, that was one of my biggest hurdles to overcome.
Positive, you're not alone in that. I mean, I can relate to that totally. I mean, and I'm quite fascinated now looking back on my business, because one of the things that I say to people is that I made every mistake so that you don't have to. And I honestly think that, and it took me many years to get to the place where I am now, where my business it genuinely is thriving. I can say hand on heart, I have a thriving business. This is where I always kind of dreamed it would be. And I can see room for growth and stuff. But I now look back and whilst I am a big believer that everything that happens to you, helps you to become the person you're meant to be. I don't regret it as such, but actually that's not quite true. There are some things that I do regret, and I regret that I allowed myself to play small for so long and hide. And there was so much activity activity that I did in my business that felt like it was moving me forward, but actually was just a way of me hiding.
So what are some of the things that you did to turn that around?
Well, Holly Wharton, I did. Well, I did a session with you. Yeah. And so we did a Psych K session. And you know, for those of you who follow Holly, you know that she's a Psych K practitioner. I have to say, I still don't quite understand how it works or why it works. Because in all seriousness, it's a little bit kind of like NLP or Reiki or any of those kind of healing things. They don't work on an intellectual level, but on some kind of very deep level. After the session that I had with you, Holly, it was just all of that stuff became easier.
Yay!
That's not to say it became suddenly, oh my goodness, look, I'm naked on the internet and I'm here and look at me in all my glory. Not that at all.
Yeah.
But what I found I was able to do, probably from the beginning of this year, was just be a lot bolder and a lot less about playing small and a lot more kind of solid and centered in, okay, I'm going to take this risk and it feels scary as hell, but I know it's going to be okay.
Yeah, it's like taking action becomes easier.
Yes, yeah. And so, and I must stress, this is not to say that... See, I always had this idea, and I don't think I'm alone in this, that you'll know when you're ready. You know, you'll just feel it. You'll feel so much more confident, and there'll be a bit of a swagger, and you'll be able to be really bold and go out there. And that is not how it works. In actual fact, it's the things still scare you, and you do them anyway. And I know that sounds so cliched and stuff, but it's true. And so another big thing for me was realizing that I really want this. I really want to be reaching way more people. And I really want to be making more money so that I can travel, so that I can help more people, so that I can be doing way more things in my business and in my life and saying to people, you can do this. You don't have to stay in the crappy job. You don't have to do this on the side. You can do this. So I think I kind of really connected with my purpose and that helped. But that being said, there's been a lot of ugly crying gone on throughout this whole process. A lot of, I mean, I kind of mastermind with a couple of other coaches, and we meet once a week, and we have this saying that, you know you're in the right place if the thing you're going to do makes you want to throw up a bit in your mouth. Because it doesn't so the stuff that maybe feels easy isn't always the stuff you need to be doing. It's the stuff that does scare you, and that whole visibility thing is one of those things. And I think as women and women in business, we need to push through that. Notice the resistance to it, but push through it, because people have to know that you're there. Otherwise, how are you going to help them?
Yeah, they do. They do, because otherwise you're going to be the best kept secret in your field. You're going to be just super talented in helping people, but no one's going to know that you exist, and no one's going to be approaching you to work with you.
Yeah.
Because they've never heard of you.
Exactly. And so when I signed up with my business coach, one of the questions that I kept asking myself was, I shouldn't need this because I know all the things.
Yes, but you're also stuck in your head all day long, and so you need someone else to come and pick your brains apart.
Exactly. And kind of lovingly, kick me in the pants and kind of go do the thing. And I'm going, oh, the thing scares me. Yeah, I know. But why do you want to do this? Go do the thing. And what I realized was that I was great at doing it for other people. I was great at helping my clients. I was getting brilliant results for my clients, but I wasn't following through on anything like the same way for myself. And part of that was because that fear of being visible, that fear of not trusting myself that I would follow through and be okay if and when it goes wrong, because it will, it's never going to go right every time. And having that faith in myself, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with confidence and self-esteem and trust in ourselves.
Yeah. So how about you then? What have been some of the pivotal things for you?
Well, as I always say, Psych K was a pivotal thing for me, because that was where I learned the technique that I use now, not only with clients, but with myself, to help myself overcome the mindset stuff. So, it started when shortly, about the same time that I trained in Psych K, I was also working with a coach who was, asking me to approach people for joint ventures and, do this, do that. And it was stuff that really took me out of my comfort zone. And so I just started paying attention all day long to the stuff that scared me, making note of it, and then doing the mindset work with Psych K in the evenings to reprogram my beliefs around, it's really easy for me to approach people to be joint venture partners. It's easy for me to ask for help, stuff like that. It's easy for me to put myself out there in a bigger way. And then, doing a lot of beliefs around specific actions that I wanted to take but was terrified of. And, as we've said before, it just makes it easier to take action. And I just started noticing, little by little, I was growing and growing and growing. But I've been, in the last 5 years or so, I've been going through such a big internal process and growth period, in addition to my business transforming so many times over the last few years. So it's, I've gone through a lot of growth. And I think sometimes I've prioritized my personal kind of healing and growth over my business. And so I think that's also kind of made things happen more slowly, perhaps, than if I had been more focused on my business. Does that make sense?
It does, but I'm kind of thinking, but surely in the long run, that means that, once you've kind of focused on the personal stuff, then that makes all the business stuff easy. So maybe it's like, you invest the time at the beginning, because then once you're able to then focus on the business stuff, it will just help it exponentially.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they both go kind of cross over and help each other. So like, as I grow, my business grows, that kind of thing. But yeah, I am aware of the fact that I've definitely prioritized my own personal stuff, because I had so much stuff coming out of my first.
Don't we all, honey?
So yeah, I've worked on a lot over the years. First with other practitioners and other facilitators, and then once I learned Psych K, basically using that with myself. In the beginning, it was every single day. Now I use it maybe once a week or once every 10 days. But yeah, I did a lot of work.
So can I ask you then, because you were saying there about, the beliefs. So what's your view on affirmations for belief change?
Yeah, this is delicate. But I talk about it all the time anyway. I'm not into affirmations, because I really like fast and easy solutions, and that's why I like Psych K. It takes between 2 and 5 minutes to change your beliefs at the subconscious level. And affirmations work mostly at the conscious level. So you're repeating them over and over and over again, and I do think they help at the conscious level. But in order to get those affirmations to the subconscious level, you've either got to just keep repeating them so many times, or you've got to use something, some other technique to program those into the subconscious level. I just don't have the time or patience to do that, which is why I like, the technique that I use. And of course, there's so many other techniques out there that work at the subconscious level as well. But I would rather spend 2 to 5 minutes programming a belief statement, which is similar to an affirmation, and then be done with it. When we do the Psych K work, when we program that belief statement, that's it. You don't need to ever repeat it again. And I always send my clients notes of the belief statements that we've worked on, so that they can refer to them and say, oh, that's what we worked on. That's totally changed for me. But not so that they can go and repeat them like affirmations, because who has time for that?
Yeah, I'm kind of, I kind of suspected that you would say that, because I've also had a, very, mixed experiences with affirmations, and to the point where I just think, I can't be bothered with them, because, I've got an NLP background, and that's a great way of reprogramming beliefs. But sort of, when you have that thing where you're saying the thing in the mirror, or you write it down or whatever, and you can almost feel this physical resistance to it. And that's because your subconscious just doesn't believe it. And then there are times when, I've had almost arguments in my head. Part of me is kind of saying, I am a powerful and such a woman. And the other part of me is going, no, you're not. So yeah, affirmations for me, I've never really kind of got on board with. So I was just curious about your view on it.
Yeah, for me, there's so many other more effective ways of doing it. And I just don't have time to sit there forever doing affirmations. It's just not efficient, and it's not effective. So down with affirmations.
So are there any kind of quicker techniques that people could say? Somebody's listening to this and right now they're not in a position to hire either of us, but they would still like some useful tools that they could maybe have. Have you got any that are kind of favourites for you that maybe before Psych K came along that you found effective?
Yeah, definitely. So before I did Psych K, I had gotten into tapping or EFT a little bit. I'd never trained in it, but there's tons of videos online. I mean, if you go to YouTube, there's tons of tapping videos. You can download tapping scripts. There are free ebooks, tons of information out there. So if you cannot afford to hire someone in a different technique, try tapping. Yeah, I found it to be really effective, but it wasn't my thing. You know,
sure.
I ended up discovering something that was my thing. So I think everyone's kind of got their thing out there that works for them, and you've got to figure out what that is. But in the meantime, if you're, don't have much of a budget to invest in, I would say try tapping because there's so much information out there and it does work. I definitely felt a difference from using it.
I've got quite a few clients who are, kind of use EFT as a kind of an adjunct to their coaching work, and it's, it can be really effective.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of kind of guided hypnosis and kind of meditations. I think they're a great way of kind of tapping into the subconscious. And again, quite kind of easy access, low cost. There are lots of things online that you can get around it. So they're easy ways. But I think there is something about, first of all, consciously setting the intention.
Yes.
And then working out kind of what's getting in the way.
Exactly.
So there's all of this information out there. There's all of the how-tos out there, how to get more likes on your Facebook page, or how to get more Twitter followers, or how to get people to register for your thing and what have you.
And it's all practical stuff.
Yeah, there's the practical stuff, but then there's also the stuff around, so the information, what's getting in the way of you doing it?
Yeah.
And so I know we say this every week, every month probably, but that's why being able to work with a coach, or even if you're working with some mastermind buddies and you can kind of co-coach each other as to, what are those blocks? My audience are coaches. So if you're a coach out there, how this works with your clients. So it's about being able to uncover what those blocks are for yourself and then finding some tools that work for you to get you past that. Because the honest truth is, we need you out there attracting those clients because those clients need you.
Exactly. And if they've never heard of you, then they're not going to get the help they need. Or they'll end up working with someone who's not a good fit for them, and it's just going to be a waste of time and money for them. So you need to get out there.
Absolutely. So I'm really curious. Do you think this is more of a woman thing than a man thing?
Yes and no. No, I don't. I definitely think men have, the same kinds of things, but I think men might be less likely to talk about it than women are. I definitely see a lot more women opening up and talking about this kind of mindset stuff online in ways that I don't see men. But, when I run Psych K practice days in London for everyone who's trained in Psych K, and we just come, I hire a room, we do the work. And I've worked with a lot of men there on business stuff that have had, the same kind of issues that the women have that I work with. So, I definitely know it's out there, but they may not be as vocal about what it is that they're experiencing. I feel like men have a lot of pressure to kind of keep up appearances more so than women do.
Go on, explain a bit more about that.
I don't know. It just popped into my mind and out of my mouth. But, I feel like it's more socially acceptable for women to be like, I'm really struggling with visibility. I'm really struggling with self-esteem. I'm really struggling with this. Whereas I feel like men, it's kind of it's less socially acceptable for them to share those kinds of things. And they're kind of more expected to just hold it all together and have it together and just do their thing. Yeah, I mean, that may be right, may be wrong, but that's kind of the impression I get, that it's just not as acceptable for them to be like, I'm suffering with this, from this stuff too. I'm playing small. I'm being invisible.
I suppose if you think about the messages that men and women are given kind of when they're growing up, and also, within our culture, thinking back to, Brené Brown's work about the things that women are under pressure to be perfect, to care for everybody else first, to do it all, and to look great while they're doing it. And men, it's to be strong, be the hero, don't show weakness. I suppose having having a space where maybe a man might be more comfortable doing the kind of, hey, I'm awesome, come sign up for my awesome thing, because that's more socially acceptable. Whereas for women, we don't like doing that type of thing. We tend to struggle more, I think, being bold and kind of really owning our expertise and things. But whereas I think it's probably way easier to kind of go, well, this failed, or I feel really uncomfortable about this, and talk about more of the, I suppose that's slightly more vulnerable side publicly, because as women it's more acceptable for us to do that. Whereas if a man's struggling with it, he's still got that be strong thing that he's having to do.
Exactly. And if he's being vulnerable, then he's not, holding up his side of the bargain and being the big, strong hero man.
Yeah. So what have been some of your biggest lessons around getting yourself out there and being visible, and whether these are kind of mindset things or whether these are practical ways that you've done it in?
I would say, God, I've done so much mindset work in this area. Let me think. Practical stuff. Do you know, a lot of it, releasing these books this year, one came out last month. I've got another one coming out probably within a week. Just depends. It's gone into distribution. I'm just waiting for it to show up on Amazon. That has been a big thing for me. That has brought up a lot of stuff, because to me, having a book out there is being visible in a bigger way, because I've written this book. Who the hell am I to write a book? Lots of stuff has come up around that. And even just sharing I was so excited when I got the cover of my new book, and I put it out there because I was so excited about it. But then at the same time, I was like, ew, who am I to share my book cover? And everyone loved it because it's such a gorgeous cover. I have such a great cover designer, and everyone was like, oh, it's so gorgeous. I can't wait for it to come out. And I was so excited, but at the same time, it was like, ew, I'm calling myself an author. Who am I to do that? Like, just yucky. I'm just squirming as I say that, because I'm just like reliving the experience. So I love writing. Writing is important to me. I've wanted to write books for years. When I was a little kid, I used to write books for myself. Like, this has been a big thing in my life. So I'm kind of coming back to something that I started when I was 7 years old. And that has brought up a lot of stuff for me. But taking that action and doing it and making it happen was a big thing for me. So I think for me, it's always a combination of doing the mindset work and then taking action on it. And then identifying what other actions I want to take, what scares me and why, doing the mindset work, and then taking that action. So it's kind of like, it's like steps up a staircase. One step is the mindset work, the next step is the action, the next step is the mindset work, the next step is the action. But for me, the book thing has really triggered a lot of crap for me. Which is good, because then, I've worked on it. But I had to take that action. For me, you can't just do the mindset work, because then, everything's all happy and lovely in your head. But if you're not taking action, then it's not, creating any changes in your business.
Yeah.
So what about you? What have been kind of the biggest things that have really shifted your business and brought you out there in a more visible way?
This is going to sound a bit counterintuitive, but one of the kind of the big pivotal moments for me, and this is going back, it must be about 2.5 years now, because one of the things that, and I know I'm not alone in feeling this, was I want people to like me. I want people to like me. I don't want to have conflict in the world. I'm all about the love, baby. So I'm a live and let live kind of girl. And so I really, I think on some level have in the past toned down my opinions and not kind of come out and said anything that I thought might be too controversial. I'm probably played it safe.
Yeah.
And then, so a few things happened. So when I first set up my blog and my website for my coaching business, and I was kind of, scared about who would read it and, who am I to be doing all of this? And then realizing that nobody was reading it. You kind of open up that kind of traffic thing in WordPress, and you kind of go, oh, 4 visitors today. It's like, okay.
No one cares.
And they're probably bots. So that kind of freed up some stuff. But then fast forwarded a couple of years, and I wrote a post called The Positive Thinking Scam and How It's Holding You Back. Because one of the things that kind of irritates me and frustrates me, still does, in the kind of the online personal development space is these really kind of slick, easy answers, which also doesn't, I think, works for people who are naturally optimists anyway. But for those of us, about 50% of the people who are naturally pessimists and have to kind of work on that stuff, there's a bit more kind of grit involved, then the whole kind of just think positive about it doesn't work. And the whole kind of, well, I have cancer, just think positive. There's no evidence base that works, by the way. But there's also, there seems to be an element that almost kind of dismisses the very human responses, which are, pain and sadness and all of those things. And because I'm also a mindfulness practitioner and I teach mindfulness, I know it's really important to be able to acknowledge those things. And I'm going off on a bit of my soapbox already. But there's also this thing that I see sometimes. It's almost like policing your thoughts and policing your feelings, which I think I understand where that's coming from when people are at a certain level. But I think in many ways can be interpreted as almost a bit... there are some good emotions and there are some bad emotions. And so don't feel the bad emotions. There's also some real clear evidence that just thinking on the positive, just thinking positive about things doesn't help you achieve your goals, can actually make you less likely to achieve them. So there's some research around, a group of, there's loads of them, but one that sticks in my mind is there's some research around a group of students who were asked to think positively and imagine themselves doing really well in their end of term exams. And they had the control group, another group, who were asked to think about the kind of the problems and challenges they would face and think positively about it. And the group that just thought positively about it did worse in their exams than the people who kind of, thought positive, but also looked at the challenges and the problems. Because the group who looked at just the think positive did a lot less work.
Yeah. Because they were trusting that everything was going to come out okay.
Yes. And so, so I wrote this post and put it out there, and I was really nervous about it. And so one of my big fears was that people wouldn't like me. And somebody wrote the most horrible, condescending, mean comment on my blog.
Ooh.
And I was okay.
Yeah.
And so this big fear that I'd had around, who won't like me and all of that, I kind of thought, well, he disagrees with me. Plus, he can't even explain the fact that he disagrees with me. And this guy was a doctor as well. And I kind of, he was a doctor of psychology. He'd done a PhD. That's not a proper doctor. But he was really kind of condescending. He didn't focus his comment in anything what I thought as measured a way as I had. And I then wrote back to him and gave him, what I saw where he was coming from. I disagree because of this, this and this. He wrote something equally mean back and I was fine. And it was such a watershed moment for me. Because all of that fear around, well, people won't like me, I kind of thought, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And actually, if you don't like me because of my opinion, then screw you.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how big a thing this had been for me up until that point. And all of a sudden, it was like I was carrying this big rucksack of anxiety around with me, and I was just suddenly able to put it down and kind of go, well, that's not the terrible thing I thought it was going to be. So I think there is definitely something in, the feeling the fear, doing it anyway, and knowing that, even if the worst happens, you'll be fine.
Yeah, you'll survive. And it probably won't be as bad as you thought it would be.
Exactly. And I'm still not somebody who likes to put loads of controversial stuff out there because, again, I'm all about the love and, I like the conversation. I'm all about let's have a dialogue about this. But it helped me to get over my fear of not being liked. And so from that point, it was an evolution of I was just more and more myself online, to the point where now people say to me, you're not like most of the business coaches out there, and but in a good way. Yeah. Like I think, because I am. I'm just much more me. I'm silly, I'm goofy, I'm nerdy, and I'm cool if I'm not the right kind of your cup of tea. I'm genuinely okay with that. But I can totally trace it back to that moment of that guy leaving it. So I thank him so much. Every day I kind of thank you, you man who can't explain your feelings very well. Okay, look, I'm not a saint or anything. I'm just
I love that, because that was taking a stretch outside of your comfort zone to do something to make yourself more visible. As a result of making yourself more visible, your biggest fear came true, which was people aren't going to like you. And see how that changed things. I love that. I think that's great.
Yeah.
But that came from taking action.
Yes, absolutely.
Not just doing the mindset stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And so if I just kind of sat there and just kind of go, everyone in the world loves me, it will all be fine, then I would have never had that lesson.
Yeah. And that's helped you grow. So
absolutely. Yeah.
Yay. So conclusions on visibility. So for me, like I said, it's a combination of doing the mindset stuff and taking action. And taking action is really, really important. But if you're just taking action and not upgrading your mindset and changing your beliefs in a way, that will help you take action more easily, you can get stuck along the way.
I agree. And I think it's not beating yourself up for the fact that you will get stuck, because you will get stuck. We all do. That's why there are coaches in the world. We help people get unstuck. And it's working out, okay, so what am I stuck with? And taking the action to do something about that bit. Yeah. And whether it be, doing some mindset stuff, or whether it be, doing the thing even though it scares you, I think the elements for me are have great support around you. Mm-hmm. And so if you haven't got mastermind buddies or people you can hop on Skype or the phone with, to kind of give you that kind of ongoing support. I tried this and it was a disaster. I launched my course and 2 people signed up. And because honestly, you speak to any entrepreneur out there and they've had those experiences. Mm-hmm. So knowing that you're not alone so that you don't get stuck in your head, but then also getting some help around getting unblocked around some of the mindset stuff, whether it be working with a coach, whether it be working with an NLP practitioner or doing some EFT, or working with somebody like Holly, doing some, some of that kind of deep subconscious work, doing something and getting into that, okay, how can I get over this? So rather than that was a disaster, I'm just giving up I'm
going to crawl back in my shell and disappear again.
Yes, which I did for quite a while. And I still do sometimes, but I spend less time in my shell now. I'm able to come out of my shell after, maybe a morning of eating ice cream or, mainlining Grey's Anatomy or something. I'm able to do it much more quickly, because it's about, well, okay, how do I get past this, rather than I can't ever get past this. Mm-hmm. And also I think understanding that not only do you have the right to take up space and be seen, your clients need you. I honestly, truly believe that there are clients out there who are waiting for you, whether you're thinking, oh, but I've got nothing original to say, or who am I haven't got the PhD and I haven't written the book. That doesn't matter. There are some people who, even though the message may not be the most original one in the world, because there are only, so many messages out there, we're all doing variations on a theme, but it's knowing and having faith that your clients are waiting to hear it in just the way that you can say it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That you are the perfect fit for your perfect clients, and they need you. So if that helps at all, it's about always doing it for yourself, but also doing it for the people who need you to be doing this work. And I'm a huge believer of that.
Yeah, that was a big shift for me with the first time I heard someone say something to those effects, because it was like, oh, people do need me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a big shift. So, thank you very much for a fascinating conversation on visibility. I think this is, as we've said at the beginning, very, very big issue for both ourselves and the people that we work with. And I hope people have found this useful and inspiring in a way that's not just positive thinking, but something that will help them to take action on the stuff they need to do to make themselves more visible and to take up space and to be seen with their businesses.
Absolutely. And it's not just that positive thinking doesn't work. I think it needs to be positive thinking, look on the bright side.
Plus something else.
Yeah, plus something else. But Holly, you have a book coming out on just this subject, or maybe it's out already, I'm not sure. But you have written a book. You have written the book on this.
The book on business visibility.
Yeah.
Yes. So this is a companion to my first 2 books, Business Beliefs and Business Blocks. And in it, I kind of explore in depth the issue of business visibility, and it's designed to help people get clear on what is the stuff that's specifically holding people back from being more visible, taking up space, and being seen with their businesses, so that they can identify those things and know exactly what it is that's holding them back, so that they can do the work, the mindset work, to release those things and more easily take action.
So we'll put the details of how you can get hooked up with that in the show notes. But thank you for another lovely conversation.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
And as usual, please let us know what you thought of the episode. You can email me, joe@joecasey.com.
Or holly@hollywharton.com.
And we will speak to you soon.
All right. Have a good day.
And thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to visit hollywharton.com/159 for the show notes on this episode. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to the Business Mindset Podcast with your host, Holly Wharton. You can find more information about today's episode, including links for topics that were discussed, at hollywharton.com. And if you enjoyed this episode, please remember to head over to iTunes and leave a quick review of this podcast. It just takes a minute. Thank you.